A glimmer of hope had arrived, carried by the gentle hands of an understanding mentor, who believed in her more than she believed in herself. The youth communication workshop sat tucked away in a small community building, its walls covered with motivational posters and colorful artwork. Emily Baker hesitated at the door, her hand trembling slightly as she turned the handle. This was her first group session, a step beyond the one-on-one coaching with Mr. Wilson. Inside, a diverse group of young people waited. Some had similar speech challenges, others struggled with different communication barriers. Jake, a tall boy with glasses, noticed Emily's nervousness and offered a welcoming smile. Rebecca, a girl with bright red hair, waved her over to an empty chair. Mr. Wilson had prepared Emily for this moment. "Remember," he told her, "everyone here understands your struggle. This is a safe space." The words echoed in her mind as she took her seat, her heart racing with a mixture of fear and excitement. The workshop leader, a kind woman named Sarah, began the session with a simple exercise. "Tell us one thing that makes you unique," she invited the group. Emily's old self would have disappeared into the background, but something had changed. The weeks of practice with Mr. Wilson had planted a seed of courage. When her turn came, Emily took a deep breath. The words didn't come out smoothly, but they came. I want to be a writer," she managed, her stutter present but not defeating. "Her." The group erupted in supportive applause, not out of pity, but genuine appreciation. During a break, Rebecca approached Emily. "I write poetry too," she shared, pulling out a worn notebook. They began to connect over their shared love of words, discovering that communication wasn't just about perfect speech, but about genuine connection. At home, Emily started a new journal, but this time it was different. Instead of just writing, she began to explore poetry, a medium that allowed her to play with words, to express herself without the pressure of smooth speech. Her poems became a sanctuary, a place where her stutter disappeared and her true voice emerged. Mr. Wilson noticed the change. During their next session, he brought her books by writers who had overcome communication challenges. Emily discovered authors who had transformed their struggles into strength, writers who had found power in their unique voices. The school began to change too. Her English teacher, Mrs. Thompson, who had once avoided calling on her, now encouraged Emily to share her writing. A school literary magazine accepted her first poem, a breakthrough that sent waves of joy through her family. Jack, her supportive brother, became her biggest champion. He would sit with her, listening to her practice, recording her readings, celebrating every small victory. "You're becoming stronger every day," he would tell her, his belief unwavering. The youth workshop became more than just a place to work on communication. It became a community. Emily made friends who understood her struggle, who saw beyond her stutter to the person beneath. Jake helped her with writing techniques, Rebecca shared her own poetry, and together they created a support network that felt like family. Her confidence grew in unexpected ways. She started a small writing blog, sharing her poems online. Initially terrified, she discovered a community of readers who appreciated her raw, honest writing. Comments began to pour in, not about her stutter, but about the power of her words. Mr. Wilson watched her transformation with quiet pride. "Communication is about connection," he would remind her. "Your words have power, with or without a stutter." The industrial town of Millbrook, once a place that seemed to limit her, now felt like a canvas of possibility. Emily began to see her challenge not as a limitation, but as a unique part of her story. Her stutter didn't define her. It was simply one thread in the rich tapestry of her life. As summer approached, Emily realized she was no longer the same girl who had once hidden behind her hair, afraid to speak. She was becoming someone new, someone brave, someone powerful, someone who understood that her voice mattered. The barriers were breaking, not all at once, but slowly, steadily, with each word, each poem, each moment of courage. Emily Baker was finding her voice, not despite her stutter, but through it. The school's public speaking competition loomed like a mountain Emily had never dared to climb. Posters plastered the hallways, announcing the annual event that made most students excited and her terrified. Mr. Wilson believed she was ready. Her parents exchanged nervous glances. Jack secretly prepared to cheer her on. Emily chose a topic close to her heart: the challenges of communication for people with speech difficulties. She spent weeks preparing, each practice session a battle between her determination and her stutter. Mr. Wilson helped her develop strategies, breathing techniques, pause methods, confidence-building exercises. The night before the competition, she barely slept. Her notebook filled with scribbled notes, crossed-out sentences, and carefully practiced paragraphs. Linda Baker made her favorite chocolate cookies, a silent show of support. Mark checked and rechecked the video camera, wanting to capture every moment. Competition day arrived with a nervous electricity. Students from across Millbrook gathered in the school's large assembly hall. Competitors waited backstage, practicing their speeches, adjusting their clothes, managing their nerves. Emily's hands shook as she waited for her turn. Jake from her communication workshop gave her a reassuring nod. Rebecca squeezed her hand. Mr. Wilson sat in the front row, his eyes filled with quiet encouragement. Emily remembered his words. "Your story matters. Your voice matters." When her name was called, the world seemed to stop. Each step felt like walking through thick mud. The stage lights felt blinding. Hundreds of eyes watched, waiting. Her old fear threatened to consume her, but something had changed. Emily took the microphone. Her first words came slowly. Communication is more than perfect speech," she began. Her stutter was present, but it didn't control her. She spoke about her journey, about the challenges she'd faced, about finding her voice. Some students shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward, captivated. The judges listened intently. Emily spoke about Mr. Wilson, about her family's support, about the power of understanding. Her voice grew stronger with each sentence. Halfway through her speech, something magical happened. The stutter became less important than her message. Her passion broke through the technical challenges of speech. She wasn't just speaking, she was connecting. When she finished, there was a moment of complete silence. Then, unexpectedly, the entire hall erupted in applause. Not a polite clap, but a genuine, thunderous celebration of her courage. The judges' deliberations seemed to take forever. Emily sat with her family, her hands still trembling. Jack kept telling her how amazing she was. Her parents looked at her with a mixture of pride and disbelief. Second place. She had won second place in the competition, but the trophy meant less than the moment itself. Emily had faced her biggest fear. She had spoken. She had been heard. Local media caught wind of her story. A local newspaper wanted to interview her. The school principal, who had once avoided calling on her, now praised her courage. Her community saw her differently, not as the girl with a stutter, but as a brave young woman with a powerful message. Mr. Wilson's eyes filled with tears during the school celebration. "You've done more than win a competition," he told her. "You've shown everyone the true meaning of courage." Her writing flourished. The competition became a turning point, not just in her speaking journey, but in her entire life. Emily started a support group for young people with communication challenges. She began sharing her poems more widely. Her blog gained more followers. The industrial town of Millbrook had watched a transformation. A shy, stuttering girl had become a powerful voice for understanding and acceptance. Emily's journey proved that challenges could be turned into strengths. As she looked to the future, Emily knew this was just the beginning. Her voice, imperfect, beautiful, powerful, would continue to grow. She had found her strength, not in spite of her stutter, but because of it. The turning point had arrived, and nothing would be the same again. The local news station's bright lights felt surreal to Emily. Just months ago, she would have hidden from such attention. Now she sat confidently, sharing her story of overcoming communication challenges. Her stutter was present but no longer controlled her narrative. "My journey isn't about perfect speech," she explained to the interviewer. "It's about finding your voice regardless of how it sounds." Word of her school competition success spread quickly through Millbrook. The industrial town, known for its rigid expectations, found itself captivated by her story. Local businesses began sharing her message. Schools invited her to speak. Young people with communication challenges found hope in her journey. Mr. Wilson watched from the sidelines, his heart swelling with pride. The quiet girl he had first met had transformed into a confident young woman. Emily had become more than a student. She was now a beacon of hope for others struggling with similar challenges. Her support group grew rapidly. What started as a small gathering in the community center became a powerful network of young people supporting each other. Jake helped manage the group's social media. Rebecca designed motivational posters. Emily became their leader, their inspiration. Local. Schools began implementing communication support programs based on her recommendations. Teachers received training about understanding students with speech challenges. The education system was slowly changing, one conversation at a time. Emily's blog turned into a powerful platform. Her poetry touched thousands, people from across. The country began sharing their own stories of communication challenges. She wasn't just writing, she was creating a movement of understanding and acceptance. Her family watched the transformation with wonder. Mark and Linda, who had once worried about her future, now saw a daughter becoming a community leader. Jack continued to be her biggest supporter, helping her manage the growing attention. The local council invited her to speak about inclusive communication. Her presentation challenged long-held beliefs about speech and ability. She spoke about diversity, about understanding, about seeing beyond surface-level differences. National media picked up her story. Magazines wanted interviews. Online platforms shared her poetry. Emily became a symbol of resilience, proving that challenges could be transformed into strengths. Mr. Wilson's approach to speech therapy gained recognition. Other therapists began studying his methods. Emily became a living example of his philosophy. That communication was about connection, not perfection. Her writing career began to take shape. A small publishing house expressed interest in her poetry collection. Her words touched people in ways she never imagined possible. The shy girl, who once feared speaking, now had a platform that reached thousands. The support group became her greatest achievement. Young people found community, support, and hope. They shared strategies, celebrated victories, and supported each other through challenges. Emily had created something bigger than herself. Millbrook transformed alongside her. The industrial town began to see communication differently. Schools, businesses, and community centers started implementing more inclusive communication practices. Emily had become a catalyst for change. Her journey wasn't just about overcoming a stutter. It was about showing the world that every voice matters, that challenges can become strengths, that communication is about connection, not perfection. On her 18th birthday, the community center was packed. Friends, family, supporters, all gathered to celebrate her journey. Mr. Wilson gave a speech about her incredible transformation. Her parents wiped away tears of pride. "I'm not fixed," Emily told the crowd. "I'm still learning, still growing, but I'm no longer afraid." The local newspaper ran a front-page story. Millbrook's voice of courage. How one girl changed a community's understanding. Emily's photograph showed a confident young woman, her stutter visible but no longer defining her. As summer approached, Emily looked to the future. College applications, writing opportunities, speaking engagements. The world seemed full of possibility. Her journey had taught her that true strength comes from embracing your authentic self. Mr. Wilson's words echoed in her mind. Your voice is your power. Never let anyone make you believe otherwise. Emily Baker had found her voice, and in doing so, she had helped countless others find theirs. In the small industrial town of Millbrook, nestled among grey factories and worn brick houses, lived a girl named Emily Baker. At 17, she carried a burden heavier than her school backpack, a stutter that seemed to wrap around her words, like thorny vines, choking her ability to speak freely. Every morning, Emily would wake up with a familiar knot of anxiety twisting in her stomach. The walk to Riverside Community School felt like a journey through a battlefield where her biggest enemy was her own voice. Her blonde hair, usually tucked behind her ears, became a curtain she could hide behind when the whispers and giggles started. The school hallways were a maze of potential humiliation. Students would nudge each other, mimicking her struggle to form words. Teachers, uncomfortable with her difficulty, would quickly skip over her during class discussions. Emily became invisible, not by choice, but by the cruel mechanism of her speech challenge. At home, things were different. Her parents, Mark and Linda Baker, were loving but struggled to understand how to help their daughter. They had tried countless speech therapists, bought expensive books, and watched countless online tutorials. Nothing seemed to break through the wall of Emily's communication barriers. One particular day stood out in Emily's memory. During English class, the teacher asked students to read a paragraph from their assigned book. When her turn came, Emily's heart raced. She could feel the eyes of her classmates drilling into her. Her hands began to sweat, her fingers gripping the book's edges so tightly her knuckles turned white. Emily, she began, the words stumbling out like broken pieces of glass. Some students started to snicker. Others looked away, embarrassed for her. The teacher's impatient sigh cut through her attempted reading like a sharp knife. After class, Emily found solace in the school library. Books were her true friends. They didn't laugh, didn't judge, didn't interrupt. Here, she could travel to worlds where words flowed smoothly, where characters spoke with confidence and courage. She would spend hours reading, imagining a life where her voice wasn't a barrier. Her sketchbook became another sanctuary. When words failed her, drawings spoke. Intricate designs, detailed landscapes, and emotional portraits filled the pages. Art became her silent language, a way to express the storms brewing inside her heart. At home, Emily would often sit by her bedroom window, watching the town's industrial landscape. The rhythmic sounds of distant factory machines seemed to echo her internal struggle, repetitive, challenging, yet somehow holding a strange beauty. Her younger brother Jack was the only one who truly understood her. While others saw her stutter as a weakness, Jack saw her strength. He would sit with her, listening patiently, never rushing her words, never completing her sentences. "You're the bravest person I know," he would say, giving her a warm hug that spoke more than 1,000 words could. Despite the challenges, Emily harbored a secret dream. She wanted to be a writer, to tell stories that would touch people's hearts. She believed that someday, somehow, her voice would break free from its invisible chains. Her nights were filled with writing. In the quiet of her room, with only the soft glow of her bedside lamp, she would fill notebooks with stories. Here her words flowed freely, uninterrupted by the stutter that plagued her daily conversations. The town of Millbrook was not kind to those who were different. Its industrial heart beat with a rhythm of conformity, of fitting into predetermined molds. Emily was a square peg in a world of round holes, constantly reminded of her differences. But beneath her shy exterior, a fire burned. A determination that whispered, "I am more than my stutter. I am more than what others see." Little did Emily know that her journey was about to change. A chance encounter, a simple moment of understanding was waiting just around the corner. Her story of silence was preparing to transform into a symphony of courage. As the industrial town continued its monotonous rhythm, Emily Baker sat by her window, dreaming of a future where her voice would not just be heard, but celebrated. The community center bustled with local residents during the annual Millbrook Charity Fair. Amidst the crowd of colorful stalls and cheerful chatter, Emily Baker stood quietly near her parents' booth, hoping to remain unnoticed. Her eyes darted around the room, avoiding direct contact with anyone who might engage her in conversation. Thomas Wilson, a retired speech therapist with kind eyes and silver-gray hair, was collecting pamphlets from various community stands when he noticed Emily. Something about her caught his attention, not her stutter, but the depth of emotion hidden behind her nervous glances. Mr. Wilson had spent 40 years helping children with communication challenges. He recognized the familiar signs of struggle in Emily's posture, the way she hunched her shoulders, how she pressed her lips together when someone approached her. Most people saw a shy teenager, but he saw a young woman fighting an invisible battle. During a quiet moment, he approached Emily's parents. Mark Baker, a factory worker with calloused hands and a weary expression, listened carefully. Linda, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, watched with a mixture of hope and skepticism. "I've worked with hundreds of children," Mr. Wilson explained softly. "Your daughter has potential that's being overshadowed by her speech challenge. I'd like to help, free of charge." The Baker family had tried everything: expensive therapists, online courses, special programs. Nothing had worked. They had almost given up hope. But something in Mr. Wilson's gentle voice and understanding eyes made them pause. Emily watched the conversation from a distance, feeling both embarrassed and curious. She had learned to hate conversations about her speech, always fearing another failed attempt at treatment. But there was something different about this older gentleman, a warmth that didn't feel like pity. The first meeting was awkward. Emily sat in Mr. Wilson's small book-filled study, surrounded by certificates and photographs of previous students. Her hands trembled as she tried to explain her feelings. Mr. Wilson didn't rush her. He didn't complete her sentences. He simply listened. "Communication isn't just about perfect speech," he explained during their second session. "It's about connection, about expressing what's in your heart." He introduced her to breathing techniques, confidence-building exercises, and most importantly, a support group of other young people facing similar challenges. For the first time, Emily realized she wasn't alone. The techniques were challenging. Some days, Emily wanted to give up. The exercises felt impossible, her stutter seeming like an immovable mountain. But Mr. Wilson's patience never wavered. He shared stories of his previous students, showing her that progress wasn't about perfection, but about persistence. Her parents noticed changes slowly. Emily began speaking more at home. Short sentences became longer. Her confidence started to grow, like a tiny plant pushing through concrete. Jack, her supportive brother, celebrated every small victory, recording her progress and playing back her improved speech. Mr. Wilson wasn't just teaching her speech techniques. He was helping her understand her own worth. He showed her that her stutter was a part of her, but not her entire identity. He introduced her to writers and speakers who had overcome similar challenges. The community center became her second home. Mr. Wilson arranged small group sessions where Emily could practice speaking in a supportive environment. Some days were harder than others. Some days the words would get stuck, and frustration would threaten to overwhelm her. But Mr. Wilson would always say the same thing: "Progress is not a straight line. It's okay to struggle. What matters is that you keep trying." Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Emily began to change. Her shoulders straightened. Her eyes began to meet people's gazes. The fear that had once consumed her started to retreat, like a tide pulling back from the shore. The Millbrook community, initially skeptical, began to notice the transformation. The shy girl who once disappeared into the background was slowly emerging, finding her voice, not perfectly but authentically. As winter turned to spring, Emily realized something profound. Her journey was about more than overcoming a stutter. It was about discovering her own strength, her own voice, her own incredible potential.